Why hello there, I didn't see you. But you're just in time for some Final Fantasy XIV hot takes. They're spicy, they're boiling, and let's react to them right now.
Until our last breath.
First up on the menu tonight, we have at Upside Down 8700 who says, "My hot take, the official forums, especially the Japanese, is to blame for the state of the game in large part. They are the main source of feedback for Yoshi P and a vehicle through which a vocal minority of players can influence the devs. But the worst characteristic of those forums is how reactionary they are towards everything that is attempted. There were users crying about one of the bosses of 7.3 having to be fought individually. They were crying about the puzzle in 7.3, the reason why the game is hard in patch X and easy in patch X+1, then back to being hard in patch X+2. They have no idea what they want and complain by default. If Yoshi P does not find another source for feedback, I fear the game is hopeless. We need a better way for players to be heard." Personally, I do not blame the forums for this. They are open forums, therefore a variety of opinions to congregate and to discuss elements of the game. And for a game with as many players as Final Fantasy XIV, you're going to find people that like and dislike any given thing, and a few of those people will probably want to voice their dislike or their enjoyment of certain elements of the game. That is just a natural state of a game at the scale of Final Fantasy XIV. My issue is, if the developers primarily seek out only one form of feedback from one specific source, which I don't believe they do, by the way, that would be my issue. People have the right to voice their opinion, absolutely. It's up to the developers and Square Enix at large to be able to take in a bunch of feedback from various sources, sift through it all and figure out what's important and what should actually change or be continued, and go from there. It is a hard job, don't get me wrong, but that is, at the end of the day, up to Square Enix. I'm not gonna blame just random people online for voicing their opinion about how they like or dislike a video game, right? Some people wanted to be easy peasy mode, some people wanted to be ball-bustingly hard, some people wanted to be somewhere in the middle. For me, my personal stance on this is that I don't want even the main story to be throwaway easy, because I believe that to reduce the possible mechanics and mechanical intrigue that playing the video game for the story can have, and I don't like it when the MSQ is just cutscene. I want there to be mechanical gameplay variety in the MSQ. It's actually one of the reasons I quite enjoyed 7.3. It tried new things. It wasn't the most elegant with a lot of them, right? Like, I feel like a few of those puzzles were a bit rudimentary or just a bit bleh, but I appreciated the fact they were actually willing to try something. I very much enjoyed the 7.3 dungeon. It's probably my favorite dungeon in all of Dawntrail. And that boss where you split up to fight your own guy 1v1 is a big reason why, because I thought that mechanic was really nifty. And look, I am also of the opinion that at some point, where 100 levels deep into this experience, you need to have a basic grasp of the fundamentals of the game. And I do think Final Fantasy XIV, if you pay any attention at all up to that point, does a good enough of a job of instilling those fundamentals. I don't think the MSQ should necessarily be hard or anything like that, but I don't think they, as developers, should shy away from having gameplay variety and little scenarios that make you actually have to think for more than 2 seconds within the confines of the MSQ. I think that makes a better video game at the end of the day when you don't shy away from it being an interactive form of media. Though I also don't have any issue with having long cutscenes, it's just I don't want it to only be cutscenes.
Until our last breath.
Now this one's gonna be spicy. We have at Prince of Angels who says, "Hot take, I want Final Fantasy XIV to make Y'shtola go full evil and power hungry. It starts with her desire to reunite with Runa, but after learning of his death and realizing the Warrior of Light could have stopped it if she had the key sooner, she's consumed by rage. One of our greatest allies becoming our greatest threat." Now, I don't want to hop in on the details of this specific hot take. I want to address the spirit of the matter, the heart of the actual argument. While I do think it could be interesting to have Y'shtola go full evil and power hungry, I can only imagine the memes and the clips we would get out of that. If I was to be a bit armchair therapist with this, I would say the deeper implication of this hot take is that this person wishes for there to be a big anime betrayal in Final Fantasy XIV, because that would be super exciting for the overall story. I could be wrong on that, but that's just my knee-jerk reaction to this. And in that regard, I can understand wanting a big moment where we go, oh crap, I'm fully invested in what's going on, I need to know what happens next. A big betrayal can easily do that and turn the tide of a story within the span of like 5 minutes or just a scene. And also, look, a lot of people, understandably so, like Y'shtola and want to be more story relevant. I think of all the Scions, she's kind of the one that still has the most open-ended story, where her entire arc never felt concluded with the end of Endwalker. It did to some degree, don't get me wrong, but I feel compared to a lot of the other Scions, she felt like she had the most legs to stand on for a new story going into the future, and I still hold to that opinion, and I think they do as well, because they're clearly setting something up for her when it comes to the key to interdimensional travel. Having Y'shtola have a bit of an angsty arc, though, after finding out Rune died, I don't know, I think that could be interesting, at least, you know? I wouldn't be necessarily opposed to having Rune die. Maybe this is my own hot take, I never really saw the appeal of him, but I didn't mind him as a character either. It's actually rather hard to get me to genuinely dislike a character. But I was never, like, over the moon when it came to Rune or anything like that. So, I mean, if we want to kill him off, and it could make Y'shtola a more interesting character in the immediate future, I'm just saying, you know? Like, if I have to do it and go full Warrior of Darkness this time, I will, just saying.
Until our last breath.
Next up, we have one of the best names I've ever seen doing all these hot takes. We have Who Stole My Ravioli, who says, hot take, the devs have made Final Fantasy XIV feel a bit too easy mode to cater to newcomers. At this point, longtime vets like myself feel like our hands are being held almost the entire way through, even in casual content. Look, I agree. I think the mechanical complexity of very easy content in this game leaves a bit to be desired, in my opinion. Again, you don't want it to be like ultimate difficulty from top to bottom or anything like that, but having just a little bit of something. It's actually one of the elements that I enjoy about Dawntrail the most, because I thought the dungeons were really good. Like, in terms of mechanics, in terms of pace, in terms of variety, at least in terms of the mechanics of the bosses, I really enjoyed the Dawntrail dungeons. The layouts leave a bit to be desired, right? Like, they're all just tunnels, wall pull, then boss, rinse, repeat, right? Absolutely. But the actual mechanics of those dungeons I quite enjoyed. The mechanics of the normal mode raids, I also really enjoyed. The Alliance raids, I've been having a ball with them. So, I would still agree with this when it comes to, like, MSQ, but for the rest of the game, I don't think that's the main issue with Final Fantasy XIV really anymore. While you're leveling up and you're doing the story with each of the patches, yeah, sure. But I think they found a good little balancing act when it comes to the normal mode raids, when it comes to dungeons, heck, even when it comes to things like Occult Crescent. I really enjoyed those boss fights that Occult Crescent had. It's just my issue with the Occult Crescent was that it kind of felt like they were only boss fights. I think the biggest thing Final Fantasy XIV needs from here on out is risk-taking and variety. Also some job changes. I'm actually rather positive for Dawntrail when it comes to, well, the mechanical side of things. And with how Arkveld and possibly even the Deep Dungeon are looking, I don't really see that changing.
Until our last breath.
Now for the biggest true to ever true or true, we have Might Know, who says, alright, time for potentially super spicy take, not for me. The next expansion should be an adventure with Hildibrand, or at least take that direction with the seriousness of the plot. Tons of lighthearted elements, goofy scenarios, and wacky hijinks. Even include an Ascian who's just completely at a loss at everything going on because his plans just go off rails due to nonsense, to the point where the final fight of X.0 is against something ridiculous in itself. Think about it, imagine Alizé and Y'shtola trying to comprehend the ludicrousness of Godhood as a main story quest, Alphino trying to logic out a situation with Hildibrand, or Thancred trying to cozy up to Nashu exactly once before realizing she's totally nutty and likely gets blown up. Meanwhile, the Warrior of Light is taking it all in complete stride, making the Scions ever more confused. I understand for the vast majority of people out there this will be a super spicy take, but my god, I love Hildibrand, and if we actually had Hildibrand in the main story, I wouldn't be upset about that. I really wouldn't be. Look, I play Xenosaga. They made the Professor a main story character in Saga 3. I've been down this road before, and my unabashed love and adoration for Hildibrand will never be quenched, it shall never be silenced. Though, personally, I do kind of think 8.0 needs to go in a direction of being a more darker story and a more serious story after the story of Dawntrail. That would be my personal recommendation, my personal wish. However, if we did manage to find a way to slip in Hildibrand at some point for comedic relief, or just to please me individually, I wouldn't be upset about that at all. Though if I were to take a step back and armchair developer this whole situation, I would say Hildibrand's best served as optional side content for those who enjoy that type of humor, and not main story or required content where people that don't enjoy that kind of stuff are forced to interact and engage with something they don't actually enjoy. But that's boring when I could be super selfish and say, give me more Hildibrand. I need it. I need to see the Scions interact with Hildibrand. That's actually a great way to use the Scions from here on out. Just have them transition into the Hildibrand content as well, so we can keep them somewhat relevant, but we can also have new characters in the MSQ. Just bring the Scions into a whole storyline with Hildibrand. I would be so down for that, because I need to see all the Scions actually react to the hijinks we get up to in our off time with Hildibrand. It would be hilarious. Like, not even half a minute into meeting Astandian, Alizé was already really angry. Imagine what that would be like, taking up to 15 million with Hildibrand. I'm all for that, personally. I need a laugh.
Until our last breath.
Next up, we have a take that I'm sure won't be controversial. We have @OblongHas, who says, make the whole game like Eureka. Most social and fun content I played in years. Look, one of these days I really need to just step into Eureka to actually get all the glamour sets that I want from it. But like, every time I try to do Eureka, I get like a little bit into it and then I just nope out of it. Every day I just find myself missing Bozja even more. I think having that balance between the overworld activities and also the critical engagement was something that really clicked for me. But I do like the overall story of Eureka, and I think this goes more to the point that I think a lot of people out there wish there was more to do in the open world of Final Fantasy XIV, and by making the overworld like Eureka, that would give people more of an incentive to actually go out and engage in the world that they're supposed to fall in love with over the course of the MSQ, until they're like largely sequestered within a capital city for most of Endgame, outside of like the occasional activity, right? But I think the point does stand. I think a lot of people want there to be a reason to go out and engage in the open world and in a lot of these zones. It is an MMORPG at the end of the day, and while maybe going fully Eureka isn't necessarily the play, I think this goes to show just how much people want just there to be even an excuse to have an active reason to go out and engage in the world on a consistent basis. I talked about this before, but I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to the idea of the next time we do like a field operation style of content like a Eureka, a Bozja, or an Occult Crescent, if instead of it being an entire new zone, it just takes place over the course of the zones we get with that new expansion. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. Could there be a few design tweaks you have to do here and there as Square Enix to make that functional? Probably. And while that may not be necessarily the route they should go, I think it's something at least worth considering. It's an MMORPG at the end of the day. A lot of people want there to be a reason to interface with a bunch of different people. It's part of the fun of an interconnected world that you're inhabiting with a bunch of other people. At least to me.
Until our last breath.
I feel like I need some healing oil after those puns from those hot takes, but here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your own spicy, hot, boiling takes about Final Fantasy XIV past, present, or future, and I may react to them in a future video, so keep your eyes peeled. And while you're down there, you should leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And we are about to have a new patch for Final Fantasy XIV, and if you want to know everything that's coming in patch 7.3.5, which is looking rather good, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!